I worked in an IT support capacity as a contractor. A year here, a few weeks there, always for an agency, never for the company. Some years I would have 4 to 5 employers. It worked out great for me. In December 2016, I was hired by an online pharmacy on a 1-year contract. You get a Rx from your doctor, log into their portal, send in an image of your Rx, and it gets mailed to you in a few days, cheaper than your local pharmacy. The agency that sent me there told me that the employer preferred I work as a contractor for the company and not the agency. Again, fine by me, as long as I get a paycheck. Right 2 weeks after I started, my hiring manager, the CSO Chief Security Officer, told me that there was an oversight, and a comprehensive background check needed to be done. This was a police record check, a high-level RCMP check, plus exhaustive employment verification. In the past, I had listed the companies I worked for, not the agencies. Past employers were okay with that as they understood the world of contractors. Not this dude. So the employment background check comes back and none of the companies could verify I worked for them, as I didn't exist in their books, having worked for the agencies that sent me there. Also, the employment verification company was based out of the US and not Canada where I live and work. Anyway, the CSO chews me out for lying and threatens to fire me on the spot. I pull up all my T4 income tax slips I had on Google Drive, pay stubs, timesheets, images of my ID cards, employment offer letters, and more, to prove I did work at those companies, but for agencies. This was clearly totally unfamiliar to him. To save face, he threatened me that I needed to go by the book in every detail or I'd be out on my ass before I could blink. Since this was a pharmacy, and if you're in Canada, you would totally understand PIPTA. Most pharmacies use a Rx filling tool called Kroll. I had total access to the training portal of Kroll. This meant they ran an algorithm that scrambled real customers' details. Real first and last names, street numbers and names, towns and cities, birth dates, phone numbers, doctor names, and Rx databases, would get scrambled and reissued. So if I opened a random customer, every detail above would be pulled from millions of customers in a never-to-repeat random order. 100% foolproof to isolate any specific patient customer. Except for the actual scanned prescriptions. As an example, making this up for clarity, if I clicked on the View Rx field for Mrs. Mary Wilson of 274 Dunhill Avenue, Grumbell, Alberta, K9F3R8519-754-8465, the title, first name, last name, street number, street name, street type, town, province, postal code, phone number, all would be pulled randomly from the database. But there was an actual scanned Rx for a real person, say in Ontario, with their name and address and phone and doctor and the Rx details. Holy shit. I'm not supposed to see this. The pharmacists and pharmacy techs who filled the Rx could see patient details, like any pharmacy. But not me or others. I am not cleared for it. By the book. I immediately went to see the CTO and showed him what I had seen. He went pale. Who else have you shown this to? Well, no one, but anyone who has access to the training portal could see it if they burrowed down deep enough. He thanked me and said he would look after it. By the time I got back to my desk, the training portal had been shut down. The CSO was fired the next day. By the book.
Next story.
I am not sure if this counts as pro-revenge, but I wasn't sure where to post this, and resentment for my dad lead to the story which took place 7 years ago. So you get a picture of the person he is. It's a bit of a story, so I hope you have a cup of tea ready. When I was 5 years old, my parents separated. My mum tried explaining to us that it was just going to be my mum, my younger sister and me from now on. But my younger sister and I came up with the story that he was at work whenever our friends asked. My dad was the life of the house, always making friends with everyone he met out and about, playing with us and being the apple of our eyes. About a month after the separation, my mum announced to us that my dad was coming back. My parents were going to try again. Of course, being the kids that we were so happy. I still remember now my brother and I screaming and shouting as our mother watched with a happy smile. It did not last. I started to notice things. He wasn't the dad I remembered. He would berate my mum for the smallest of things. Things like the way she ate, the food she cooked and the friends we had. I remember my dad forbidding my brother from going over to my aunt's house for a sleepover with my cousins because my aunt left the window open at night. My dad was controlling and would restrict us all from doing things. He ruled the house with an iron fist. After a year of us living like the happy family my dad wanted, my mum said that my dad was not coming back. I didn't feel a certain way, for I didn't like the way my family was turning out. My younger sister, who had previously been the loudest of us, would not talk to anyone. It had gotten so bad that her teachers often asked me to sit in her reading lessons, as her teachers couldn't assess her reading level, as she wouldn't trust anyone but me. My brother, who was the kindest boy I ever knew, was picking fights and getting detentions all the time at school. And my mother only left the house for school runs. From then on, we would spend weekends at our dad's house and weekdays at home with mum. I didn't feel a certain way about things. When she thought none of us were awake, my mum would sit at the dining room table where we used to eat and break down and cry. I wasn't sure why then, but now I know that it was due to the stress of having to raise 3 young children, keep a house running on a church secretary's wage, and my dad refused to pay for the house and only gave a fraction of child support. Our financial situation worsened, so my mum instead took up a second job as a childminder. By this time my brother was in high school and it was just my sister and I, still in primary school. My mum worked hard out to help keep a roof over our heads and give us a normal life with little help from our dad. The latter was living it up in his bachelor flat and the freedom to do whatever he wanted, his only fatherly duties being to see us on weekends. On one of my mum's bad days, she even let slip how dad had been cheating on her, and I felt sick. He took me to a woman's house once when I was about 8 years old and home from school with tonsillitis. Even forced me to call her auntie and gush over how cute I was. He had sat me in the living room. I still remember watching the Sleepover Club on Nickelodeon whilst my dad and auntie were elsewhere. To make things worse, auntie was a close friend of one of my mum's church friends. My mum's church friend was figure in the community and she had seen my dad and auntie together and gave my mum the heads up. Mum was distraught. People now knew about my dad's infidelity. Everyone at church offered to pray for her. They meant well, but to a prideful woman like my mum, it was soul-crushing. 9 years after the divorce, my father was now happily married to his new wife and had given us 2 new step-siblings. By then, my brother had cut all ties with our dad, my sister was going through her rebellious teen phase and I was constantly anxious mess. Alongside, our mother was tired of our financial situation at home. She had 3 teenagers to support. It was suggested by my oldest half-sister, who luckily did not have to same dad, and her husband, who was a police officer and had studied law, who convinced my mum to seek legal action. As a result, she told us that she was going to take our dad to court, but she needed an address for her lawyers to send him a letter. An address she didn't have. Neither my sister or brother knew where he lived, but on each visit to his home, I made sure to keep special attention to all the road signs, landmarks etc. This was my time to shine. After a quick Google search, I found his home and wasted no time in giving the address to my mom. A couple of weeks later my younger sister gets a nasty text from my dad saying to never ask him for anything again for we had betrayed him. My brother and I didn't care much, but my sister was pretty upset. Months later, my parents go to court. My mum brought my older half-sister, different dad, her husband, and my brother with her. My father went alone. He appeared sallow, a shell of the man he was from our childhood, and revealed to my brother that he was ill with prostate cancer. We were sad for him, but that did not change the way that any of us felt. I felt only pity for him. For my dad is a man of pride. He prided in his health, something his parent did not have. Despite my dad brining up his sickness and treatment, he was forced to pay the child support he owed my mother. Over the past 10 years, he had accumulated thousands of pounds he had avoided paying my mother by secretly reducing the amount of arrears he put into her account monthly. He had to repay what he owed in monthly settlements until both my sister and I turned 18. It was a small victory for us. The settlement did nothing to stop his cheating ways. He cheated on my now ex-stepmother after being declared cancer-free, and I'm glad to say that I happily told her what he was doing after I put my skills to good work again.